Hello and welcome to Weekly World Climate Change News. This is Han Zhang. China's top climate diplomat touted a draft plan to reduce methane emissions at the COP27. Methane is an extremely potent greenhouse gas. It is believed that cutting methane pollution can have a more immediate impact on global temperatures, because it dissipates after about 10 years. Despite being the world's leading polluter of the potent greenhouse gas, China has not been signed onto the global methane pledge to cut methane emissions 30% by 2030. China's climate envoy, Xie Zhenhua, announced that China's plan would focus on cutting emissions from energy, agriculture, and waste. However, one concern is that China does not mention methane emissions from coal mines. UN and World Bank report indicate climate change has negatively affected global food system, drastically reducing agriculture productivity. But rural communities in developing countries like Kenya seem to have found a solution. Local and indigenous foods, hundreds of farming communities have reverted to indigenous leafy vegetables and tubers with the help of various rural outreach programs. Most farmers are holders of invaluable knowledge on indigenous food system, passed from generation to generation. Various non-profit, such as Grow Biointensive Agriculture Center of Kenya, assist smallholder farmers in selecting, storing, and managing indigenous seeds. The nations participating in this year's COP27 decided that poor countries and those particularly threatened by global warming are to receive compensation payments for climate-related damage. The setting up of funds fulfills an over 30 years old demand of developing countries. Industrial nations thus recognize their historical contribution to global emissions. Payments can occur by floods, heat waves, or famines. However, the conference made little progress in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Instead of quitting oil and gas, the countries only decided to reduce their use. Experts estimate that 1.5 Celsius degrees goal is no longer reachable. An unprecedented study shows that adding environmental ratings to menus allows diners to make more environmentally friendly choices. The study, led by the University of Bristol, found that setting eco-friendly traffic lights levels next to the dishes on the menu could significantly increase the likelihood of diners choosing more sustainable food. Lead author Katie Lloyd, an assistant researcher in psychological sciences, said, adding traffic light ecological tags to the menu can add more sustainable food choices. Furthermore, it is somewhat surprising that the participants were positively about the ecological labels, with up to 90% of the participants supporting the idea. The 23 richest countries in the world, according to research by the Transnational Institute, spending more on their military forces than they do on climate finance in the nations most impacted by the climate crisis. Britain, the US, and France are the top 3 military spenders, and they are also the leading emitters of the greenhouse gases. The TNI released their findings as COP27 got underway in Egypt. According to their report, funding the military was harming the environment and depleting funds for the battle against the climate disaster. Young Europeans and Africans consider the climate crisis as the biggest threat to the world. According to a new survey, The youth from agriculture-dependent countries, Ghana, Chad, and Mauritania, identified a close link between agriculture production and the climate crisis. The participants were aware of the links between the climate crisis and other threats, such as migration, resource scarcity, and conflicts. Africa remains the most vulnerable continent, despite its low contribution to greenhouse gas emissions, noted the participants from both continents. The respondents considered fundings and measures to fight climate change as crucial. Lula, Brazil's new president, was greeted with honor at the Climate Change Summit as he promises the restoration of the Amazon forest, adding that he would hold climate criminals accountable. Lula had a huge number of supporters, and many considered him the superstar of this year's summit. Lula not only promised Brazil's climate action plans to be up and running, but ensured that Brazil will commit to delivering developed nations the money they are owed to deal with the effects of the climate crisis. He also assured that the protection of indigenous tribes were exploited of their lands under the former president, Bolsonaro.